the state director of Americans for Prosperity Virginia, my good friend Tyler Foote. Just saw him the other day at the Capitol, at the General Assembly, and at the state Capitol. Tyler, good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me, John.
Now, I know AFP has got a pretty robust agenda in the 2016 General Assembly, something that I know there's one thing you guys have been working on for some time. Can you share with our audience some of your top issues, 2016 GA, and the one that you just broke?
Yeah, so we have a lot of legislative priorities this year, and we're, I guess, a little over our first week in this session. Things are moving pretty fast and furious. So I'm going to touch on two items that we're pretty excited about right now. Number one, our energy bill. It's called the Spark Act. Basically, what it does is it empowers Virginia citizens and makes sure that before any of Obama's policy energy can be implemented in Virginia, our legislators at the General Assembly have to approve it first. That way, our citizens can hold their elected officials accountable. So it's a key piece of legislation that we're pretty excited about, taking the power out of the hands of the bureaucrats of the EPA and putting it back in Virginia citizens where it belongs. That bill actually passed out of committee. It will be on the House floor for full vote today. Feel pretty positive that'll get out of the House, and then it actually is in the Senate committee today. And again, we feel pretty confident that'll get out of the Senate committee today, and hopefully it'll be on the floor in the Senate for a vote. Hopefully early next week. So we're seeing a lot of early progress on that, and actually it passed out of committee in the House unanimously, which is pretty unheard of and pretty uncommon. So we're pretty excited about this and feel like elected officials finally realize that it's time that we fight back against the EPA.
And I want to stay with that for a minute because it passed unanimously out of the House. This is, and as I said in the opening, people got to understand that Americans for Prosperity is issue-oriented, policy-oriented. It's nonpartisan. So when you pass something with a unanimously, out of a committee, it's because you got both sides of the aisle to say this is a good thing, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think this is common sense legislation. The bureaucrats up in the EPA are nameless, they're faceless. We don't know who they are. They have no right dictating to us in Virginia how we use our energy resources, especially when the president's Clean Power Plan will basically raise energy prices in Virginia and also kill thousands of jobs. So, we don't need Washington bureaucrats telling us how to run our energy policy in Virginia. We need to leave that up to the elected officials that we elect year in and year out. And so that way, our citizens are basically empowered. So yeah, I think like I said, this is a common sense piece of legislation that we've gotten a lot of support from, and I suspect it'll get out of the House pretty easily, and we might have a little bit of more difficulty in the Senate, but even then, I think people are on the side of empowering their constituents to make the decisions and not bureaucrats in D.C.
All right, I think that is a fabulous effort. The Spark Act, we're going to be following that. What else?
So one of the things that we've been pushing for a while, and this is a priority for AFP nationwide, but it's creating more choice in our school system for our parents. Right now, the way it works is your child basically is mandated to go to the school that's in their zip code. And so we want to make sure that our parents have more choice when it comes to how and where they educate their child. We always like to say that even the best school is not the best fit for every child. Now, don't get me wrong. In Virginia, we have really good schools, right? So this is not it's not an edict against Virginia public education system. It's just we have quality schools. But even then, we need to make sure that parents have more choice. So one of the ways that we're looking at doing that is creating educational savings accounts, which basically allows state funding, 90% of state funds that are allocated for a child for their education, to follow that child to any school of their choosing. Now that could be private school, that could be homeschool, any option thereof. And actually, in fact, you can even save a little of that money for college as well. That way you're not only taking care of your education now, but you're also thinking about your education in the future. So that bill passed out of the House Ed Committee yesterday. We'll go to appropriations, where they'll talk about the fiscal impacts and how it impacts the budget and whatnot, and then it'll go to the House for a vote. Now, again, that'll be a little bit of a heavier lift, but I think we feel pretty confident that'll definitely get out of the House. And really, what we found is that people on both sides of the aisle are pretty agreeable to to more choice. We just have to make sure that I think the biggest concern on the left is that it'll take away money from public schools, and what we found that actually is not the case. The state actually saves money, and the school district actually saves money. So it's a win-win for everybody. Child gets a good education, parents get their kids in a quality school or a quality system that fits their needs, and then the local school districts save money as well. So it's a win-win, and we just got to make sure we get it through the House, and that way we can kick it over to the Senate and see what we can do there.
Tyler, the public education lobby, I've already seen what they've said about this, and you hit it on the head. They're saying, look, you can't take money from children from the public school and give it to a private school because we don't have funding as it is. And so it's not follow the money. It's the money has to stay there. You want to go to a private school or you want to homeschool, that's fine. You can do what you please, but you can't shift the money from public education to private because that hurts the school's funding. And the argument this is, well, that child's not going to be there, therefore you're saving a seat. Their argument back to me is that really doesn't matter. What matters is the money. So
right.
We can't meet our budgets now. Why would you take more money out? You want to put your kids somewhere else, that's fine. Do whatever you please. But taxpayer dollars shouldn't be following that individual. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think there's a fundamental flaw in the premise of their argument. They approach it sometimes as if it's their money, and in fact, it's actually the parents' money. The parents are the ones that are basically the main customer. When it comes to the school district. So the left and right may disagree on this, but I think the basic premise is that it's not the school board's money to decide what to do with and where it stays. It's the parents' money. They give it to the state, and who then in returns give it to the local school boards. What we're looking to do is basically just kind of reverse that model and take it back to what it was, originally intended to be, and give the money back to the parents, who can then decide where to spend their money. The other thing is that actually 90% of the state allocated funds follow the child. The other 10% stays in the schools, and then 100% of the federal and local money also stays with the schools. So really, they're not losing every single dollar that's allocated for a child. They're only losing 90% of the state allocated money, and then the rest they get to keep. So really, that's where they get to make money and save money on this. Is that they're actually keeping money that's allocated for for an individual child at the state and local level. So their argument is flawed, I think, at its core. But then the math just doesn't bear it out either. So we got to change that mental model, change that mentality, and make sure that people understand that this should be a customer driven business, right? We need to treat this like the private sector. The parents are the main customer. We need to make sure that they're happy. We need to make sure that the students understand, or the students get the best education, best quality education they need. And not every school is the best fit for every child. So let's just give them options to help meet their needs, no matter what they are. That's all we're asking.
So is it about choice or competition?
It's about both. I think, as a free market conservative, I think competition rises all boats. We want to make sure that the schools have, schools are held accountable. And we also want to make sure that, there's more competition because, competition, again, rises all boats. You want to make sure that you're out competing your counterparts. But it's also about choice as well. Right now, a lot of districts don't have choice. And so it's about creating a market for both.
Okay, I think that makes a lot of sense. We've been fighting this battle for school choice in Virginia and across the country for some time. It just never seems to get anywhere. Hopefully, this is going to be the time because we are, I think, in a little bit of a different political environment where politicians are a little more now accountable to those in their district, right? So hopefully,
absolutely,
we'll get a change on that. So that's your top two right there. What else? Oh, and by the way, we're with just so my audience knows, we're with Tyler Foote, and Tyler is the State Virginia Director of Americans for Prosperity. More information, go to americansforprosperity.org. Go ahead, Tyler.
The final piece of our main legislative priorities this year, looking at different healthcare reform items. So we're obviously against Medicaid expansion. We feel pretty confident that that's not going to pass because Republicans have a majority in the House and Senate, and they both have come out and said, Medicaid expansion is a non-starter. So now we want to shift to offering solutions, to having solutions that increase the quality of our care while lowering costs for everybody, regardless of, what type of health insurance that you have. So one of the ways we're looking to do that is injecting a little free market principles into our system. We're going to start with what we call certificate of public need. And John, I know you and I have some disagreements on this that we can hash out here. But basically, if a hospital wants to add an MRI machine or hospital beds or anything like that, they basically have to go to a board of 5 bureaucrats to get approval, and also show that there is, a need for that in their community. But we really don't think that government should be involved in this. It needs to be free market driven. So if there's a demand for an extra MRI machine or for additional hospital space, we need to let the free market decide that, not bureaucrats in DC or not bureaucrats in Richmond. Now, the biggest complaint that we have from opposition sides of this is rural hospitals, because they have a higher percentage of charity care, and they are concerned about, if they have more competition, that charity care can get spread out, and, they're already having problems with reimbursements from, the federal government. I get that. Bottom line is those two things. One, we're not in this for the hospitals to make money. In fact, there's a lot of studies out there. One from the Thomas Jefferson Institute that shows hospitals are actually doing okay. They're not losing money. They're doing okay. Some are doing better than others. So we're not in this for the hospitals. We're in this for the patients to make sure they have the best care possible. The second thing is we do understand that there are some situations in rural areas where patients really don't have any other options but the one hospital. So we want to make sure we are sympathetic to that and want to make sure we protect those hospitals. And so we're open to doing what's necessary to make sure those hospitals basically don't go out of business and start losing money. But we also want to make sure that this is patient-centered solutions and that they get the best care possible. So certificate of public need will eliminate those laws on the books and basically allow the free market to be injected into the healthcare industry so that we create more competition, higher quality care, lower costs.
The flaw in that argument, Tyler, is that we're not dealing with hospitals with a free market system. Hospitals are the most regulated form of doing business in the country. They have to take people that go to the emergency room, indigent care. They can't pay. They have to take them. They have to offer services that are not profitable. I mean, they're mandated. They have to offer child birthing services and things that they lose money on. Trauma centers can't make money on that. So there's a lot of areas where the government comes in and mandates that hospitals have to do certain things that they lose money on. They get they have to take Medicaid and Medicare patients. They're paid 50 cents on the dollar. 62% of of all revenue that hospitals should get in, 62% is either, or their services are either free or they're heavily discounted. So you're not really dealing with a level playing field. That's my intellectual challenge with this, is you're saying, okay, well, let's let private companies, healthcare companies come in. What's going to happen, in my judgment, is these companies, under your free market scenario, they're going to come in and they're going to cherry pick only the most profitable services, put those in. There's competition, obviously, but it's the profitable services that the hospitals make money on to subsidize all the things that the government mandates they have to lose money on. And so I think you guys are, intellectually, I think it's a sound argument, but when you look at the reality of the situation, I think it's going to hammer rural hospitals. There is, however, a compromise, and Brenda Pogge has introduced legislation where the CON would only go away in high-density areas where hospitals are quite profitable, and CON would stay in rural areas. That might be an area that works. But look, we're out of time. Great debate. And it's good that we're on the opposite side of something, so we can find, so we don't agree on everything, so we can continue that on. We're out of time. More info, go to americansforprosperity.org. Tyler, great job today. You are so knowledgeable about these issues. Very impressive. We'll have you back next week.